People think time heals all wounds. They're wrong. Some wounds fester. Some dig into your bones, infecting everything you are, everything you were. Some become all you have left. I watch him now from the shadows, the rain disguising my breath, the city lights painting his face in a blur of red and gold. He laughs. Soft, effortless. Still charming. Still untouched. Still breathing. He shouldn't be. 3 years ago, he tore a hole through my world and walked away clean. No handcuffs. No trial. Not even suspicion. The police called it unfortunate. The papers said tragic. They never saw her body. They never saw the bruises he left under her smile. But I did. I was 20 then. Too young to understand the depth of darkness someone could hide behind a perfect grin. Too young to know justice is a word people cling to when they're too scared to say vengeance. I'm not scared anymore. The woman I used to be died with my sister. I buried her alongside the girl who believed in truth, in fairness, in second chances. What crawled out of that grave was something colder. Harper. I've studied him like a blueprint. Every routine, every lie, every flaw he hides beneath that tailored charm. And tonight the foundation finally cracks. He doesn't know I'm here. He doesn't know I've been planning this moment for over 1,000 days. But he will. By the time the sun rises, he'll remember everything he tried to forget. Every scream, every tear, every secret he thought he'd buried with her. And when I'm done, only revenge will remain. Before everything burned, before I became this thing I barely recognize, I was just Ava Blake. 18. A university student who painted late into the night, skipped morning lectures, and laughed until my stomach hurt. I wasn't extraordinary. Just a girl with ink-stained fingers and a head full of color. Back then, I believed the world was still mostly good. And that belief came, in part, from Mia. Mia was my older sister by 4 years, but it always felt like more. She had that impossible calm about her, like a still lake in the middle of chaos. When our parents died in a car accident, she stepped in without hesitation, 23, barely out of college, and suddenly responsible for a grieving teenager. She never complained. Not once. She just folded me into her world and kept going. We lived in a cramped apartment near the university. She worked 2 jobs while I attended classes and sketched ideas I was too afraid to paint. Even when we argued, which we did, she'd always circle back to me. Always made sure I ate. Always asked how my classes were going, even if she was dead on her feet. She was my safe place. My gravity. And then Mason happened. I remember the first time I met him. He came by the apartment unexpectedly. Dark suit, dark eyes, easy smile. He brought Mia flowers and introduced himself like someone who knew how to win a room. I didn't trust him. But I didn't know why. At the time, I chalked it up to jealousy. She was mine in a way, and I wasn't ready to share her. But it wasn't just that. Mason was too perfect, too polished. His compliments always had an edge to them, like a blade dipped in honey. He'd say things like, "You're lucky to have a sister like Mia. She really holds everything together, doesn't she?" Sounded sweet. It wasn't. Mia lit up around him at first. She smiled more, wore lipstick again, even sang while she did the dishes. I wanted to be happy for her. I told myself I was just being overprotective. After all, what did I know about men and love and relationships? I'd never had a real boyfriend. But little things started to change. Mia stopped sharing as much. Our late-night talks became rare. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd smile and say, "Of course. Mason's just intense. He's got a lot on his plate." I noticed the way her eyes darted to her phone when it buzzed. How she flinched when she missed a call. How she stopped painting, stopped singing, stopped laughing. One night, I came home late and found her in the kitchen, staring at a cracked wine glass in the sink like it had cursed her. Her lip was bleeding. She said she'd slipped. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Mason's name was never mentioned that night. Neither of us said it. But it hung between us like smoke. And still, I said nothing. Because what proof did I have? A broken glass. A bad feeling. Because I didn't want to lose her. And she was slipping away already. Every time he touched her, it was like a piece of her disappeared. But she still made time for me, even when it looked like the weight of the world was crushing her. We watched reruns of bad crime dramas and ate cheap noodles. She'd sit beside me and braid my hair like she used to when we were kids. Some nights she whispered, "I love you, Ava. You know that, right?" Like she was afraid I'd forget. I never did. And maybe that's what hurts most. That I saw her sinking and stayed quiet. That I watched her drown in silence, thinking love alone might save her. Didn't. Nothing did. Because the day Mia died, a fire started inside me. Slow, cold, and quiet at first. But it's burned hotter ever since. Mason. Mason just kept smiling. The phone call came at 6:14 a.m. on a Tuesday. I remember the exact time because I had been awake all night, finishing a charcoal piece I never completed. The world was still gray when the words hit me like a blunt object. "We're so sorry, Miss Blake. Your sister, she's gone." That was the word they used. Like she had vanished. Like she'd chosen to disappear. They found her in her apartment bathtub. Pills scattered on the tiles. A note, typed cold, barely a paragraph, saying she couldn't go on. That she was tired. That she was sorry. But none of it felt like Mia. She wasn't perfect. She carried weight she never showed anyone. But she was strong. She had plans. We were supposed to move into a bigger place after the semester. She had interviews lined up. Paintings to finish. Books she still owed the library. And the note, she never typed her notes. Mia handwrote everything. Post-it reminders, grocery lists, even our shared calendar on the fridge. Her handwriting was part of her. Delicate, looping letters. The signature on the suicide note looked nothing like it. I told the detective that. He nodded politely and scribbled something in his notebook. "Sometimes," he said, "people hide their pain better than we realize." I wanted to scream at him. She wasn't hiding. She was trapped. They ruled it suicide within 2 days. Quick. Clean. Case closed. But I couldn't stop seeing her in that tub. Open. Mouth slightly parted. Like she was trying to say something even in death. In the weeks that followed, I lost count of how many people told me to remember the good times, or let her rest. But I couldn't. Not when I found the bruises. She had kept a box under her bed. Old journals, receipts, scraps of fabric, bits of her life tucked away. I opened it one night because I couldn't sleep. I wish I hadn't. Her journal entries started normal. Notes about work, art, and me. But then things shifted. He says I'm lucky he loves me. That no one else would. Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe when he's near. He took my phone again. Says I don't need distractions. He got angry because I wore red. He says red makes me look cheap. Entry after entry bled with fear. Paranoia. Exhaustion. One entry, dated only a week before her death, read, "I don't know who I am anymore. Miss Ava. I miss how we used to be. I want to leave. I don't know if he'll let me." That was when the rage began to settle inside me. I confronted Mason 2 days later. He didn't flinch when I showed up at his office. In fact, he smiled, arms open like I was an old friend. I shoved the journal into his chest. He barely glanced at it. "She had issues, Ava. You knew that," he said. "She wasn't well. She needed help. Don't turn her death into a crusade just because you're grieving." Crusade. Like grief was some performance. Like I was just another dramatic girl too emotional to think straight. I went to the police. They took the journal. Promised to look into it. Weeks passed. Nothing. I called, emailed, even met with a detective. He looked tired, uninterested. "There's no physical evidence connecting Mr. Caro to her death," he said. "We can't reopen a case on hunches and diary entries." I asked if he even read them. He didn't answer. The more I searched, the more I uncovered. Texts Mia had sent to an old friend. Pleased to meet, to talk, to escape. A voice message where she was crying. whispering something about feeling watched. But it didn't matter. No one listened. No one cared. Not really. And Mason. He moved on effortlessly. Started dating again within 3 months. Smiling. Posting. Breathing. I stopped painting. I stopped attending class. I stopped eating for days at a time. Grief hollowed me out. But rage rebuilt me. Because Mia didn't die. She was erased. Slowly, piece by piece, by a man who knew exactly how to destroy someone and still look clean. I stopped waiting for justice. Justice was a story we tell children. Bedtime lie. What Mia needed was punishment. What I needed, what I burned for, was revenge. So I became someone else. I learned to wait, to study, to sharpen myself. Because if no one else would punish him, I would. The day I officially became someone else was unremarkable. No thunderclap. No symbolic shedding of skin. Just a quiet morning, a stale cup of coffee, and a long stare into a mirror I barely recognized myself in. That's when I cut my hair. It fell in clumps around the sink. Years of softness, of someone who believed people could be better. I dyed it next, the color of midnight. Bought contacts to shift my eyes from hazel to ice gray. Then the wardrobe followed. Sleek, structured, minimal. No more paint-stained sweaters or messy buns. No more Ava Blake, the art student who cried herself to sleep in a room still smelling faintly of her dead sister's shampoo. She was gone. I buried her willingly. I dropped out of university 2 weeks after they closed Mia's case. No one noticed. The school counselor called once. I ignored it. My professors sent a few automated emails before I stopped checking entirely. The world moved on like grief was a phase to outgrow, like death was just another semester skipped. In isolation, I learned everything the justice system refused to teach me. I read obsessively. Criminology, forensic psychology, behavioral profiling. I studied how people manipulate, how they lie, how they hide darkness behind their teeth. I spent sleepless nights watching police interrogations, studying the flicker of guilt in micro-expressions, the way even sociopaths eventually slip. I researched poisons too. Not because I intended to use one, at least not yet, but because knowledge was power and I was done being powerless. I learned which toxins were traceable, which mimicked heart attacks, which caused pain so excruciating it could never be mistaken for peace. It was around this time I created Lena Carr. 27. Freelance brand consultant. No social media history, no real paper trail. Just enough fabricated identity to appear clean, desirable, and real. I created profiles, seeded her into online circles, and eventually, months later, found the opening I'd been waiting for. Mason was hosting a private networking event. A celebration of something. His latest consulting deal, or maybe just another excuse to be worshipped. I walked in like I belonged. Confident. Unbothered. Cold. He noticed me within 15 minutes. "Do I know you from somewhere?" he asked, drink in hand, smile predatory and smooth. "Not yet," I answered, offering my hand. Lena Carr. And just like that the game began. The irony was nauseating. The man who destroyed my sister was drawn to me like a moth to flame. Maybe I reminded him of her. Maybe I reminded him of himself. Either way, he bit the hook. He started messaging me within days. Casual, flirty, then more frequent. We met for coffee, then dinner. I laughed at his jokes. Touched his arm when he spoke. Never too much, never too little. Just enough to make him think he was in control. He wasn't. The first time he leaned in to kiss me, I let him. Not because I wanted to. Because this was war, and every war needs blood. Still, afterward I threw up in a gas station bathroom. Scrubbed my skin raw with hand soap that smelled like lavender and lies. My conscience screamed. Guilt clawing through my ribs like an animal trying to escape. But I didn't let it. There was no room for Ava in this plan. Ava was too soft, too hopeful. Ava asked for help and got silence in return. Lena didn't ask. Lena took. In the weeks that followed, I became a fixture in Mason's life. He invited me to his apartment. I memorized every drawer, Every password he typed in half-drunken sloppiness. I found his old journals, pages of self-aggrandizing nonsense and notes on people he manipulated. There was a list, names, dates, some crossed out, some not. Mia's name wasn't on it, because to him she was never real. Just another girl he broke and discarded. Another body to step over. That realization numbed something in me permanently. The more I saw, the less I felt. No more tears. No more hesitation. Even my dreams became quiet, just still frames of Mason's face as I imagined what it would look like twisted in fear. But part of me still whispered. The part that remembered lying next to Mia under blanket forts, whispering about the future. The part that remembered painting for joy instead of revenge. That voice told me this wasn't what Mia would have wanted. That becoming a monster wouldn't bring her back. But revenge isn't about resurrection. It's about reckoning. Every time Mason smiled at me, I smiled back and thought about the journal entries. About the way Mia's hand trembled when she held a cup of tea. About how no one listened until it was too late. Now he listened. Every word. Every laugh. Every sigh. He trusted me. And that was his mistake. Because Lena Carr wasn't real. She was built for one purpose. To destroy the man who killed my sister. And I wouldn't stop until he looked me in the eye and finally understood the cost of what he did. He took Mia. He buried Ava. Now all that's left is the ghost between them. And she has nothing left to lose. Revenge isn't about striking once. It's about watching them burn slowly. From the inside out. And making sure they know it's their own match that lit the fire. Mason was easy to seduce. Though not in the way most people would expect. He didn't want a body. He wanted admiration. Obedience. The reflection of himself in someone else's eyes. That's what he fed on. So I became his mirror. I laughed at the right moments. Asked about his work. Let him talk uninterrupted. As if his every word was brilliance wrapped in gold. I gave him the illusion of power. Of control. All the while I was taking inventory. His routines, his triggers, his tells. He didn't recognize me. Not even a flicker of suspicion. I watched him closely the first time we shared a drink in his penthouse. The place was pristine. White marble, dark steel, not a single trace of warmth. He handed me a glass of wine like a man who never feared poison, and I wondered how many women had stood where I was standing. How many had trusted him, smiled for him, fallen for the same act. He leaned close and said, "You're different from the others." Smiled. If only he knew how right he was. From the outside, Mason was everything people admired. Successful, handsome, composed. He shook hands with politicians. Donated to charities. Gave speeches about leadership and integrity. They all believed him. And that's when it hit me. He wasn't just a man. He was a performance. A living, breathing con. Everyone saw what he wanted them to see. That's how he got away with it. And that's how I would tear him down. Not with a dramatic outburst. Not with an accusation he could easily deflect. But with a scalpel. 1,000 tiny cuts he wouldn't see until it was too late. The first lie I exposed was small. He told a colleague at a gallery dinner that he had studied art history at Oxford. I casually mentioned it to another guest. Wondering aloud why his name wasn't in the university's alumni registry. Mason brushed it off with a smile and a joke about clerical errors, but I saw the twitch in his jaw, the crack in his mask. Next, I made him late to a board meeting. Nothing overt, just a wrong calendar entry on a shared app one helped him set up. When his boss called to ask where he was, I watched him spiral, lashing out at his assistant and blaming everyone but himself. The seed of paranoia was planted. From there I nurtured it. Gently, lovingly. Began asking soft questions. Are you sleeping okay? You've been so tense lately. You sure you're not forgetting something? Always with concern in my voice. Always smiling. He started to doubt himself. His memory, his instincts, thrilled me. I found a locked drawer in his office. He never saw me pick it open. Inside were old flash drives, burner phones, documents, names, schedules, photos. Some of the women matched faces I'd seen at parties, networking events, charity galas. All of them were beautiful. Some were bruised. I took pictures of everything. Quietly, methodically. And every time I looked at him, I wondered if he had any clue who I really was. If there was even a ghost of Mia left in his mind. I wanted to ask him, do you remember her name? Do you remember how she died? Do you care? But not yet. The game had just begun. There were moments, brief, flickering moments, when something like guilt would rise in me. When I saw my reflection in his window and barely recognized the woman staring back. My hands were steady. My voice calm. But inside I was ice. This wasn't justice. It wasn't even retribution. It was annihilation. I stopped painting altogether. My brushes gathered dust in the corner of my apartment. My real apartment, the one Mason didn't know about. Ava's apartment. Lena lived in the clean, pristine condo Mason helped pick out. He thought he was guiding me into his world. But I was building a trap with his own hands. The deeper I went, the more he relied on me. He told me secrets, trusted me with access. He called me his calm in the chaos. And every time he said it, I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded, kissed his cheek, whispered something sweet. Because vengeance isn't loud. It's a slow, careful poison. And I was slipping it into his soul, one drop at a time. His hair was unkempt, shirt wrinkled, paranoia bleeding into every twitch of his eye. His once perfect world was crumbling. Clients pulling out, whispers of fraud circling the halls of his consultancy firm, friends suddenly too busy to return his calls. Someone had leaked photos, discreetly captured shots of him with a girl too young, too vulnerable looking. The media spun their story like wildfire. He blamed hackers, exes, anyone but himself. And through it all I was there. His anchor. His Lena. He came willingly to the cabin. The same one Mia used to retreat to when things got too loud. The same place she died in. I needed to get away, I told him softly, watching him shiver beneath his expensive coat. Somewhere quiet. Just us. He followed me inside without question. The fireplace crackled low as I poured the wine. He barely sipped it, too anxious. His eyes darted around the room like ghosts lingered in the corners. They did. But they weren't mine. They were his. When I stepped into the glow of the firelight, I dropped the smile, took off the wig, removed the gray contacts. His face changed slowly, confusion turning to recognition, recognition into dread. Ava, he breathed. No, this isn't. I didn't speak. I just stared. He laughed thin and sharp. This is a joke, right? Some messed up, twisted game. I didn't do anything to her. She was unstable. You know that. She was afraid of you, I said. My voice was ice. She begged for help. And you made her believe she was worthless. He backed away like I might strike him. You can't prove anything. You're not well. This isn't, Ava, think about what you're doing. I have, I said. I walked toward him slowly like death given shape. He tripped, fell to the floor, hands raised. Please, he whispered. I didn't kill her. I didn't. I leaned down, close enough for him to see what he destroyed still burning in my eyes. You didn't have to pull the trigger, I murmured. You just handed her the gun. Then I turned away. Picked up the matchbox Mia once kept near the stove. What happened after that? Some say I walked out alone. Some say I never left. All they found was ash. It's quiet now. Not peaceful, never peaceful. But quiet in that way a snow-covered graveyard is quiet. Heavy. Final. Ill. I don't see Mason's face in crowds anymore. I don't wake up screaming. I don't look over my shoulder, waiting for justice to arrive too late. That fear, that fire, it burned itself out the night I left the cabin. I never looked back. They asked questions, of course. Police. The press. But Mason had made too many enemies by then, left too many cracks in his perfect life. His disappearance didn't spark sympathy. It sparked scandal, conspiracy, speculation. No one mentioned Mia. No one ever does. I live in a different city now. Different name. No photos. No past. Just silence. And her voice a little fainter each day. She used to scream in my dreams. Now she only whispers. Sometimes I wonder what Mia would think of what I've done. If she'd cry. If she'd beg me to turn back. But I remember her eyes near the end. Red-rimmed, hollowed. Full of quiet pleading no one heard but me. No one helped her. So I did what no one else would. Did it make me feel better? No. Did it make me whole? Not even close. But it stopped the bleeding. I don't paint anymore. Can't. My hands only know how to destroy. My heart forgot how to make beauty from pain. But I can breathe. And for now that's enough. They say forgiveness sets you free. But I never wanted to be free. I just wanted him gone. And now, only revenge remains.